Bienvenidos, Fright fans, and welcome to the horror show. I am Jaime En Fuego, here to present a special encore presentation that originally in 2015 was seen on my then YouTube channel, Jaime En Fuego, which was for a program called ENFUEGOTAINMENT that is in the process of a relaunch. But we thought that for the month of October, the best thing that we could do was bring the entire series coverage of the 1980s and 90s Tales from the Crypt HBO television show over to the horror show, show it to a larger audience so that they can appreciate all of the hard work. Man, did I bust my ass for that month or so, getting every single one of the 93 episodes done and reviewed and spoken about. We did a little of my little trope at the time, which was Bueno, Malo, Feo, which is a good episode, a bad episode, and an ugly episode. I am taking these 3 at a time, and then also a special 3-episode final edition covering all 3 of the films. Yes, there are in fact 3 films. So join me here as we jump into a little bit of a horrific relic that I am very proud to show all of you guys. So until next time, stay scared. ¿Qué onda, boils and ghouls? This is Jaime En Fuego here for ENFUEGOTAINMENT, where I always cover the hottest entertainment with an edge, and this is the 28th installment of my October Tales from the Crypt coverage. Good lord, my friends, it has been quite the journey. We have been going 3 episodes a day for all 31 days of October. Yeah, I am talking all 93 episodes when I realized there were 93 and 31 days in October. It was pure perfection, my friends. That's right. And so let's just jump right into it on this 28th installment. I cover 3 episodes a day, a bueno, a malo, and a feo. That's right, as I always do on ENFUEGOTAINMENT. So a little good, a little bad, a little ugly, and let's get right into our bueno episode here in the 7th season of Tales from the Crypt, and sadly the final season. And our bueno episode is a little ditty I call A Slight Case of Murder. That's right, guys, and this one is definitely one of the best that I saw in the entirety of the 7th season. I still have a few more episodes to go, but I'm familiar with a few from this 7th season already, and so this one I had never seen, and it was a gem. It was great. It was much better than some of the others thus far in the 7th season, and even in the 6th season. I've mentioned it a couple times already that Tales from the Crypt in the 11th hour was kind of waning in quality, unfortunately. But this episode is damn good. It's written and directed by Brian Helgeland, I believe, if I'm pronouncing your name properly, man. I hope I am. And this guy is actually an Academy Award winner. He wasn't quite yet at the time, but he was right about to be, because a year later, he was going to win an Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay for LA Confidential, man. And he also did lots of great horror work before getting into LA Confidential, eventually Mystic River, and more so a writer than a director. He does both in this particular episode, but he wrote Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which is my 3rd favorite in the entire series. I think it is so underrated. Dream Master is fantastic. He also did another Robert Englund vehicle, although not one where he was in front of the camera. The 976 Evil horror film that Robert Englund directed, Brian also wrote the script for. So yeah, the guy can do drama, he can do horror, certain things like A Knight's Tale, which were very, very scary, although rest in peace, Mr. Heath Ledger, fantastic Joker. It's still not as good as Jack Nicholson in my book, but still pretty damn good. And so, yeah, man, this is actually a very interesting episode for the sheer fact that it's very kind of Stephen King-y. You have this writer, and she's a British woman. She's holed up in her house, and she's trying to finish her latest novel, and she's got this crazy, annoying neighbor who is seriously like straight out of a sitcom, showing up, asking for sugar, totally being annoying, prying into her business. And so, yeah, very tropey in that aspect, but I'm telling you guys, the performances are fantastic. She has somebody from her past show up, and things get very, very interesting. And the actress who plays that writer is Francesca Annis, and she was married to like Ralph Fiennes at the time, I believe, but she was also Lady Jessica in David Lynch's original Dune. She has tons of, theater, and I mean, she's like a full-on thespian, and she brings a lot to this role. She brings the proper bit of bitchiness, but yet also you feel for her character in the same right. And so, yeah, it's a great episode, masterfully directed, well acted, and I'd say one of the top 3 of the of the entire 7th season. It's a tremendous episode. So let's get into the malo now, the bad episode. That's right, the one that is no bueno. And this one is called Escape. Yeah, it's another war set film, although this one is set in World War II as opposed to World War I, like the amazing Robert Zemeckis directed episode called Yellow that had Kirk Douglas and Dan Aykroyd, and back in the days when Tales from the Crypt was firing on all cylinders. But, you know, this one, it's not the worst Tales from the Crypt, it's just boring. Flat out boring. There is really no excitement, even once stuff gets going. So basically, you've got this bassist from this early 80s romanticism new wave band in the UK named Martin Kemp, and he was in a group called Spandau Ballet, if I'm pronouncing that properly, but he's also done his fair share of acting as well. Besides rocking on the bass, he's done Werewolves versus Strippers or something like that, a crappy film most recently, but he was on episodes of the 90s Outer Limits. He was in Embrace the Vampire, if you've ever seen that delectable dish with Miss Alyssa Milano looking oh so fine, shawing shawing. And how can you forget the amazing sequel to Waxwork, Waxwork 2, Lost in Time, that Zach Gilligan movie that people, man, I tell you, genre fans either love it or they hate it. So yeah, this guy, he's not a bad actor, and he's not bad in this performance. It's just, as I said, it's a boring Tales from the Crypt. It is not very well scripted or directed. The scripting, sadly, you have to blame Katz and Adler. They're pretty much the showrunners at this time. If you've watched any of the episodes leading up to this, seasons 5, 6, and 7 has been the ascent of these guys into power, and I'm not so fond when they direct. There is one episode in particular called Death of Some Salesman that they did that I thought was amazing. Gilbert Adler directed that one. But yeah, there's no excitement. He's trying to escape from this POW camp, and you know, he has a couple failed attempts, and you're thinking he's going to get there. He's banding together with some other German prisoners, but yeah, at the end of the day, if you want to watch a Bueno episode that takes place in war times, man, I mean, you have to watch Yellow instead. I highly recommend that one. And the quality of directing didn't really help either here. You've got Peter MacDonald, who did lots of threequels, and very bad threequels at that. Like, he did The Neverending Story 3, and he did Rambo 3. I mean, the guy has some chops, though. He did do second unit directing work on Tim Burton's original Batman and a few other notable films. But, yeah, at the end of the day, despite it's not awful, it's just, yeah, it's lame, it's boring, it's not very exciting. So let's get into something that at least had a little bit more interesting stuff to talk about. The Feo episode, the ugly episode of Tales from the Crypt today. And this episode is called Last Respects. That's right. And you basically got these three chicks who are all like running an antique store, and they're just rivaling, squabbling siblings, and very lame Feo, just ugly, stupid dynamic. It's a goofy Tales from the Crypt episode. I thought that this one actually might be a home run. Tremendous. You got Freddie Francis, who did amazing genre work in the 60s and 70s with Amicus and Hammer Films, I should say. So he did like Legend of the Werewolf and a weird film called Son of Dracula that had like Ringo in it and stuff. But the guy's also won Academy Awards as a cinematographer for like Glory and Gods and Monsters and stuff like that. So the guy's got amazing chops, and even more so, he directed the original Tales from the Crypt anthology film that was released in the early 70s, man, which actually had a similar kind of story theme. So this is another riff on The Monkey's Paw, that classic W.W. Jacobs short that everybody has done, from The Simpsons to even The Monkees, man. I mean, seriously, no stone left unturned in this case. And, you know, this is another thing where in that Tales from the Crypt film, the segment called Wish You Were Here was actually another riff on, you know, Monkey's Paw. So I was thinking, Freddie Francis directing, man, the original Tales from the Crypt director, coming on board. You know, you've got a pretty decent cast. I mean, the two other girls are most notable for being on soap operas like Dynasty and General Hospital and stuff like that. But the third sister, Julie Cox, was actually Princess Irulan in the Frank Herbert's Dune and Children of Dune that John Harrison put together, and we all know he's been a big protege of Tales from the Crypt, and you know, he's done some great episodes like Eyes Will Kill Ya, but you know, he also did oh my goodness, so much great stuff with you know, George Romero, Tales from the Dark Side, Creepshow, but he doesn't have any involvement in this one. And maybe if John Harrison had been involved, this would have been a better episode. Maybe if he at least scripted it. I don't know. You got Mr. Go-To handling the duties on this one, Mr. Scott Nimmerfrau, and you know, he ends up doing over a dozen Tales from the Crypt episodes by the end of the day, including some serious heavy lifting in this final season. But yeah, the episode as a whole, as they find this paw and you know, the stuff starts to unravel, once the horror aspect finally comes in, it's just not what it needs to be. It's presented too silly. I need some sheer terror. I love laughs in my Tales from the Crypt episodes. Do not get me wrong. That's like the whole staple of the series and why I loved it so much. I love horror comedy, but You have to have the horror actually have some weight to it, man. And in this particular instance, it just didn't. It was too goofy, not scary enough. I mean, yeah. So it was ugly fail in the fact that they were rehashing another idea. It's ugly when you can't come up with your own original ideas. And so, yeah, this was like a ripoff of a ripoff of a ripoff. So there you have it for the 28th installment of my Tales from the Crypt coverage, man. Waning in popularity. It's almost kind of at this point like a turd circling the toilet bowl about to go down the drain. That's a really nasty analogy. So sorry guys, but do take the time to watch that first episode. I'm telling you, Slight Case of Murder is actually tremendous. It's a very good episode. So gracias for tuning into this 28th installment. I just have a couple more left for you before I cover the Tales from the Crypt movies here for October. So I extend a grande gracias for y'all tuning in. You can check me out covering all things spooktacular at thehorrorshowchannel.com. Just like you're seeing it spelled below. It's also on YouTube at The Horror Show Channel, so just search that. You'll find all of my spooktacular coverage with Cecil, Marcia, and Susie von Slaughter, my homegirl from Heavy Metal Television. And you can find me covering all things just hot entertainment with an edge, man, like I said, at Jaime En Fuego on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and here on YouTube. So until mañana, when we hit the 29th installment of Tales from the Crypt, so close, so close. I'll see you then, Fright fans. Adios, and stay scared.